Hang on. Let me try that one. Mic check. There we go. For whatever reason, the YouTube side wasn't working, but I think we're good now. Mic check on YouTube. I can see the thing moving. I think we're okay. Jeez. Anyway. Now that we've got that all sorted out, welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone is able to rest up, get ready for the day ahead, and hopefully you weren't spending too much time this morning so far. BTFDing the crypto flash dump. Jeez, oh Pete. What a dive to the downside, and what a fire sale, huh? Woo, man. We'll get into that in a minute here, but this thing is getting absolutely obliterated. Before we jump on in, on the left side of the screen, make sure to read through the live trader morning prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. Just wanted to make a quick note before we jump on in as well. Please keep in mind that the YouTube broadcast does have between a 5 and 30 second delay, depending on where you're logging in from, and that can definitely impact the timeliness of what I'm talking about at any given point. Also, I want to give a shout out to our latest members that joined overnight, last night, this morning. Excuse me. Thank you so much for the support. I'm pumped to have you on the SSFTG fam. Welcome aboard. If you aren't a member yet, you have a few different options to check out if you're looking to further your trading education and career. Here on YouTube, you can check out the join button below the stream. YouTube fam, they gain access to the extended hours trading room, which continues from the morning session from 10 to 11, or 10 until whenever things slow down. Every member also gains permanent access to the Discord chat server, and of course, you get the awesome badge next to your name here on YouTube to show your support, which is always cool looking. To understand what it is that we're doing here every morning, look no further than the Day Trading Academy. That's over on SSFTG. Listen, this isn't a small, lightweight PDF or something you're going to go through in an afternoon. This is a 19-plus hour course that comes with full study material, homework, review, everything else to really kind of get things going. So make sure to assume that you're going to have to tuck in for a little bit on that one. And then, of course, finally, the big one, the VIP. And VIPs, they have exclusive permanent access to our non-delayed stream, covering the entire morning session from 9 to 11. That way they can ensure the fastest connection possible, as well as not missing any beats along the way. And alongside that, VIPs also have access to our monthly VIP webinars. There's one coming up this weekend about scalping. Really pumped about that one. Private VIP events, one-on-one scheduling access, all kinds of cool stuff. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're a seasoned VIP vet over on the Zoom stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you trading alongside with me today and analyzing these crazy markets of ours. Let's take a look at what's going on so far. See what's going on in the news calendar. All that fun stuff. Don't forget to grab the DP levels. Those are posted for you this morning. And that will get all of the major points of interest that we are going to be keeping an eye on for today. And I don't know what happened to my news calendar, so let me reload a new one. There we go. Looking at the news side of things, today is Wednesday. That means that we do have crude oil inventories today. And before that, there isn't anything. We don't have any news. We don't have anything going on earlier this morning. Looking across the board of everything that's going on here, we've got the crude oil inventories at 10:30. That's forecasted at 1.623. If we go back to yesterday and look at the API weekly crude oil stocks, those are forecasted at 0.62. So 0.62 is the forecast, and today they're forecasting a build of 1.623. Well, you know, it might be slightly more bullish, but it's still anticipated to be a relatively bearish number, all things considered. That's really about it until this afternoon at 1400. We have the FOMC meeting minutes, and then we'll have to wait and see. That's when things get interesting. All right. Get that over here. Switching over and taking a look at the charts so far this morning, we can see the NASDAQ is continuing its descent to the downside, finding a -2 DP move already so far this morning. Big movement lower, and this movement doesn't have any divergences or anything like that would potentially tell us, at least on the slower, that there's something going on. Although in the much, much nearer term, maybe finally starting to find a short-term bottom, I guess. The big thing that's going on here is we really need to see, are the buyers going to be able to kick this thing back up, or are the sellers going to push this down through the lows? We've already broken through 13,000. That level of support, I mean, honestly, it really didn't stop the market too much. If you look back at 13,000, we kind of bounced off it a little bit, I guess, and now we're poking through it. We haven't really shown a whole lot there. Obviously, last time 13,000 was a pretty big zone of support resistance. That would be the anticipation this time. And in fact, last time around, it was strong enough to bounce to a new high. So buyers really do not want a new low. This could just be a nice deep L5 before a continuation back up, and swing buyers, they're still going to be buying it down here, especially down here, because the risk is incredibly low. They can buy in down here with a stop underneath the low, with rewards not just back to the highs, but potentially for a major trend reversal and a huge continuation higher. There's a lot of potential here while the market's nice and cheap, or at least cheap for now. On the S&P, still seeing a pretty big dive to the downside here as well. The S&P is more bullish than the other markets, but the big thing, same thing. We're not seeing any divergences. The MACD is, I mean, maybe balancing a little bit. All things considered, though, if they are going to push down to a major zone of support or resistance, kind of like the NASDAQ hovering at around the big level, the big zeros, 4,000 would be the same for the S&P. We've got 70 points to go until we're even close to that. So, I mean, realistically, we might be looking for something like that, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense at the moment. We'll see what they're able to do, but for now, sellers are trying to get it to go lower. See if the bulls can kick it back up. Gold just went absolutely nuts. They popped off of the lows, screamed all the way back up to the highs, and then rejected off of the highs and started pulling back again. 1871 or so is where it's hovering, and it's not really doing a whole lot from that perspective. Just hanging out. Seems like they hit that brick wall above the highs again, and they still can't even close above it. There's still time left on the candle, obviously, but that makes it a little bit harder. Crude oil pushing back down towards the lows, 63.50s, getting into that zone of interest. The major area is going to be around the 63.30s. That's where everything becomes a lot more interesting as we start getting down to those lower areas of value. All things considered, though, we haven't really seen the continuation back up. We haven't really seen the stick the landing. They broke above the highs, sure, but total failure after that. Market's obviously looking for a deeper pullback. Ethereum breaking underneath 2,000 now. This thing's getting absolutely annihilated right now. Flash sale. What a drop. Well, we'll have to see where things want to go. Excuse me, but man alive. The crypto markets are getting absolutely decimated right now. Down to 30,000 on Bitcoin. Wasn't it yesterday we were just talking about this? That's weird. Let's switch gears over to, other way. Back to the larger time frames on the NASDAQ and work our way forward from there. From the daily perspective, we still got that continuation to the downside, and it does appear as though the market's trying to reach out and grab that measured move. We have finally gotten a bit of continuation. Really nasty inside here and kind of herky-jerky and weird, but all things considered, they got the job done. So that's kind of what it's looking like at the moment, of just seeing, hey, where does this actually want to find some potential support? Are they going to do it in the 12,880s? Are they going to go through the lows? Are they even going to make it down there? There's a lot of interest in this area. It's just a matter of seeing where they're able to show up to the party. Big zone of support is going to be down initially at 12,880. Just have to pay attention to see what happens when it gets there. Over on the 60-minute chart, and looking at the way that this thing is jumping around, obviously we've got a lot of back and forth that happened at the highs, and all of that back and forth came on just a brick wall of resistance. And realistically, if we look to the right, we can see what happened. I mean, they ran into 14,000 and just got slapped. That doesn't necessarily mean that it can't go back up to 14,000, but obviously buyers were not interested in buying way that high up. However that English is supposed to work, and since then it's been failing down. They came back up and they did grab that quick little vindictive high, which is the spark that kind of lit this whole thing lower. And from this move, if we look at the first drive down to the second drive down, that puts a measured move that was initially right around this area. And it kind of looked like, you know, maybe they're going to get through it. Maybe they're going to bounce back up. Not quite sure what they want to do. Started finding resistance, but broke above the L2 and then went down and now holding underneath. We finally have some conviction and the market's rolled all the way back over and now we're back down to the lows. It hasn't broken down through the lows, but you can see just creeping in on the left side of the screen there. Pretty big zone of interest that's hovering just underneath. We're right back to that previous POC on the earlier drive lower, and this is where buyers are going to be looking to accumulate again. They already did it before. Even if they don't succeed in buying this area for the reversal, it's still very likely we get at least a bounce here. So a lot of buyers are looking for a continuation off of this. But sellers, their objectives are new lows, break down through the lows and try to churn down through some of this 12,800s, 12,820s from the bigger daily. Over on the 15-minute chart, we can see a little bit more definition as to how this all took place. We had the rotation to the upside, nice little pullback. And let's actually clear this stuff off real quick here. There we go. So from the bottom, excuse me, they had the rally from the bottom to the top. That led into the next pullback. And then from there, led into, I mean, really, this thing didn't stop until way the heck up here. And then from there, down. And then from there, although it was a lower high. And then basically down to where we are now. So if we look at the overall structure as to what the market kind of did here, we had this initial really strong rally to the upside, huge POC at the top, backed off a little bit. If these were sellers, it seems like they took some profit on this slide to the downside. And if they were buyers, they reattained their bullish conviction once it started breaking back above there and off to the races. We hit another big POC, which was at the top or the highs of the previous swing. That's not a surprise. Pretty much everyone on the planet's going to be looking to take profit there. So, you know, the overall movement that we've got going on is likely a lot of profit taking and then another breakout above the highs. Big volume nodes, but not enough to shift the POC, meaning that when the market does come back down to this area, that could potentially be a big zone of resistance, support, etc. And when it gets down there, it forms the POC of the day down right on top of it and then tries to continue back to the upside. Now we see right before the end of the day on that rally higher, they plotted a big old POC there, which failed, rotated back up to a new high, and now we've gone underneath that. From that new high, all they were really able to do was create another POC at the highs, but notice what happened when we broke underneath that 300, that big giant chunk of volume that showed up. That was the bounce, it broke underneath, that was the resistance, and that was the game over. That was the start of the entire move lower, was on that break of that 13,300 half volume right there. So knowing that that was the catalyst, that was the spark, if the market is going to come back at some point in time, that's going to be a big zone of interest. For now, the market's still driving to the downside. We're seeing nothing but profit taking. And now that we have a little bit more hindsight in our favor, POC, 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 combine all those together, it's likely stuck right in the middle, and we are now underpriced. Sellers so far have won, although we don't have a new low. That's what they need. Just realized China bans cryptocurrencies today. Yeah, for like the 100th time. We'll see how well it sticks this time around. It's like saying the sky's blue at this point. Like, yeah, okay. The only way that any ban is actually going to shake the market to its core, and I know, keep in mind, we're staring at crypto down 50%. I totally understand. But at the same time, this has been needed. This is so incredibly healthy for the market. It's needed it for ages, but it hasn't gotten it. It's the same thing that we were talking about in the NASDAQ on that rally higher for years. It needs the pullback. And sometimes that pullback happens very quickly, and this might be the bottom, this 50, 60% pullback that we've had across the board. From the highs, that's the double value pullback. So from a bullish perspective, if buyers are going to be buying in with as low of risk as possible, this dip is the dip. This is the Walmart blue light special second, well, maybe not second mortgage on the house. It's crypto after all. It loses 50% in an afternoon, but you know what I mean? Like, everybody's going to be backing the truck up to this. And the last time around we had a dip like this, it was back at the highs within a day. Traders respond incredibly fast to these kinds of moves. And it's happening, the difference this time is it's happening during the U.S. session. So now U.S. sessions can act, the traders from the U.S. session, which generally speaking, crypto is dominated by the Asian session more than anything else. Now we're given a chance. BTFD, yeah. The only way they're ever going to put a cork in crypto as a whole is there's too many S's and is's and ifs in there. Is if every country bands together to ban it unanimously. And even then, people can still give it value because it's transactable between people as long as you have a wallet. So it doesn't, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they can ban it all they want, but it doesn't mean people are going to stop using it. It's just derived off of the value that us as holders or hodlers or whatever you want to call yourself give it. And that's why a lot of people are so aggressive in buying these dips lately, because realistically, the amount of power that comes with that's incredible. This could very easily be the last time we ever see 2,000 again on Ethereum. Ever. Well, never say ever, but this is like BTFD 2.0. You missed the first one? I'm definitely interested, so... I mean, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do with your money, but I know I like this dip, personally. Just don't be stupid with your money and throw everything at it, What was that one guy that sold everything and put it all in Litecoin? I mean, that was back when Litecoin was in like the, what was it, 50s, 60s? I mean, it worked, depending on when he got out or if he's still in. I don't know. Market open right around the corner here. Now, I gotta say, the one thing I am very much interested, how much are things like Nexo token and stuff right now? Because those, or Binance, this might be a fire sale on Binance. I might have already missed it. I mean, ADA's already back up to $1.50. What a ridiculous dive on ADA. Sheesh. What Doge go down to? Like 21 cents. Flash crash of the frickin' century. Ethereum made a low of 1888. Depending on the exchange. Tron is still sub 10 cents. Wi-Fi dipped to 34,000. Oh man. Keep in mind the reason why that's kind of that's throwing me for a little bit of a loop. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days ago? That was $95,000. Today it hit a low of 34,000. I threw a small like $100 something trade on Femex on ADA, but I'm pretty sure it liquidated me. Yeah, it liquidated me. So, I mean, I tried to BTFD into it with like on the margin side of things too. The only one that actually stuck though was Ethereum, which I'm totally fine with. That's already up 50%. But I mean, this is, man, you don't get dips like this very often. And it might not stop, right? I mean, that's the thing. If people panic and they sell, which always happens, this might keep going and it might drop another 50%. It's all risk capital. I have a big smile on my face because I know that I plan to hodl it forever. I think cryptocurrency is the way of the future, but I'm also not putting my life savings in it either. Don't be dumb. Going into the US session, now that we've got the crypto BTFD flash crash, people jumping out of windows, annihilation. Looking at the overall movement that we've got going so far on the US session for the NASDAQ, we've got the Asian session down stacked with a Euro session, very wide Euro session, and it is staying low. Breaking to the downside, everything is continuing lower. We know sellers have taken over. This was their area that they did it. And if we combine that whole zone, now that we know where the launching point was, we go all the way up to the top. That gives us our impulse POC. And we have our lower high structural POC, both of which give us two different areas of interest. The first one is at 13,250. Broke underneath that pretty obviously. If it does come back, that'll be the first zone of resistance, but we can't discount those 13,120s either. Huge VVP they're filling in right now. I mean, given the way that crypto moves, I don't think it would be a surprise at all to see Ethereum trading back above 3,000 within 3 or 4 hours. But in the same breath, it wouldn't also be a surprise to see it trading under 1,000 in the next 3 or 4 hours. That's crypto, right? That's the aggressive nature of it. Yeah. Oh man, Nexo's $1.80 now. Whoo! Oh lordy! I don't have enough arms and fingers and hands for all of this dip. There's too much dip. No, I would almost guarantee that we'll hear about exchanges losing capabilities and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Coinbase is probably already down as soon as someone breathed a big order. So, I mean, realistically, it's probably already happened. Yeah, yesterday you were just, or was it yesterday or maybe the day before? Yep. Now, keep in mind, depending on the leverage direction that you're taking, you could also short Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of those if you don't like them. Could be an incredibly profitable drive to the downside if you're a pessimist for it. Remember, we're traders. There's opportunity both directions. Just don't do it. Just don't do it AMC style, where you go like 130% company valuation short or anything. You know? Or GameStop, I mean, whatever. There has been almost no retrace on this entire move down. I mean, none, really. Just micro retraces. First time it gets above the moving average cluster is likely going to get sold down, just like it was over here. Typically, it gives it a couple more shots than that, but, you know, hey. Good movement so far. So far demonstrating a bit of support off of the -2, which is understandable, all things considered. It's a heck of a lot of bearishness coming into today across the board here. 928 around the corner. Careful. Whoop. Sorry, I didn't mean to punch my microphone there. $9.28 really didn't do a whole lot. Oop. Wrong key. Are you trading Bitcoin? Oh, you better believe I'm hopping in and out of these moves for sure. The range that we have going on, like on Femex as an example, they have a distance between the bid ask where, depending on the leverage that you're trading, is like 20% ROI every time it jumps. It slows down and picks up and slows down and picks up, but I mean, anywhere from like 5% to 20% jumps over and over and over and over and over again. It's insane. 30 seconds until the open. See what the market wants to do here. I mean, so far from the beginning, we've got the L5, L2. Ooh, they didn't hit an L3. They got an L2. L2, L1s all over the place. L1s, L1s. It's L1 city all the way down. The first approach of L1 will likely find some sellers trying to pressure back. Oh, whoa, hey now. Those don't look right at all. There we go. S&P is pushing to the downside. Sellers so far on the NASDAQ not showing up. We're back to L1, but it broke right through the top of it. Those are very thick candles. Back above 13,000 as well. Buyers will be looking for a snap to the upside if they can get a quick little return. Keep in mind, though, the market is massively down right now. So trying to buy this is, I mean, there's also like casinos. There's other things that you can do too if you're looking to gamble. To the tick on the high of 13,020. Breaking through the top of L1 now. Looking for that deeper pullback. L2 is a very obvious zone of interest. Breaking above the top of L1. Now, it is likely that sellers probably sold the first test of it, especially considering that was also 13,000. There's a lot of other reasons why sellers may have hit that first approach, but there was no response there. I mean, it just snapped right above it. So given that pop above like that, I mean, that gives us kind of an idea that initially scalpers may try to pick it back up to the long side off of that 13,000. And notably, the market's down. I would rather be a short. I would want to see those buyers try and fail, and then we can short it right back down again. Market's just kind of hanging out so far. Not quite through the first 5 yet. All right, still climbing higher. First 5-minute bar is in. Kind of a lackluster start to things. POC on the 5-minute S&P at 69.25. If we look at the 5-minute on the NASDAQ, $80.25. Sellers putting the pressure on right back down again. Technically they didn't actually hit the L2, but it was very close. There, now they got the L2. Nice little pop-up. We have a continued divergence now in the faster. Everything kind of demonstrating some sell-side action, other than actually moving lower. Beautiful bear bar. It's a retest of the lows of the Euro session. Just need a bit of confirmation, that's all. Let's load up the L2. As far as volume is concerned, the POC still down at 80.25. See if they can shift things a little bit. Sellers trying to pressure back down, but still not technically taking the POC. Okay. Well, the S&P made a new low. What a slow start. It's not very often that we've gone this long without anything. And the only thing that's going on right now is crypto. And that maybe that's why the US markets are so slow, because everybody's focused on the 60% pullback over there. I don't know. See if sellers can start mustering up a little bit more. Pulling down a little bit further. POC still down at the 980 quarters. And the S&P is a mess down at these lows. Cracking down through the base. Sellers attempting to get back down now through the moving average as well. Still down at the 80 quarters. Gold is screaming through the highs right now. Euro's catching a nice lift. More continuation of the downside. Now, again, 80 quarter will attract some buyers trying to pick it up on that first little dip down to that 5-minute support. The market's going down, so I would rather be a seller, and I can't really be a seller if bulls are in the way. So seeing the bulls try here, you got to see them start failing. See if we can get a little pop up to those 1250s. Beautiful pop up to the highs. Quickly snapped above the top. Right off the top of that previous swing high. Sellers looking to pressure back down again. Euro session top hitting as well. A metric ton of volatility still going on. Lordy. Be very, very careful today. I like this pop above the highs, but I'm looking at it more as a attempt to try to drive back down. Sellers are very obviously on the wrong side of things. So I'm looking to utilize this drive back down as more of an exit tactic. They're having a heck of a time getting anything going off of these previous highs. I'm going to reduce risk a little bit, just in concern that they do break above the highs and start rifling up through the top. I'm not willing to accept the risk like full size through a breakout. Coinbase crashed. Of course it did. Is that a surprise? Got a lot of volatility coming in off of this break-even point, so I'm going to utilize that as a point, again, just to reduce a little bit. Knowing that obviously sellers are having a very difficult time, we're probably going to break above the highs. It's not worth floating full risk. I already know I'm wrong. I'm just looking to mitigate the risk a little bit. Disappointed, yeah. That's a good way to put it. And, you know, I think I'm, with Coinbase at least, I'm more disappointed that I'm not surprised. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that it's down. It's that I'm not surprised that it's down. You know, that's where the real problem is. A little bit more slide back to the downside. They're still putting the pressure on off of these highs. Whew. Jeez, oh Pete. This is all technically part of the same leg, so we can all continue that up to the new high. POC still down at 80 quarter. Not really much has changed. Just got in the trader. What caused the NASDAQ to jump in V-bottom? So much news. Honestly, I'm not sure. The fact that it's bouncing like so aggressively from yesterday, it could be any number of things. You know, I don't know. What I do know is that it's got the aggressive pedal on. That's for sure. All right, I'll look to reduce that last one there and see if we can get a little bit of a pop back up to the inside of 42 quarter to play off of. Mitigated the risk a little bit, still in the negative, but mitigated quite a bit of it on the back and forth there. Yeah, 80 quarters just one giant order. If we move it out of the way, you can see it. It's just a brick. It's going to take a lot to shift that. One really big consideration would be the fact that we're not really making these new lower lows, and we have driven down to the -2. Typically, the -2 DP does act as an incredibly strong level of support, and the market is not shy about bouncing off of it. Got a POC at 030. Are you on the NQ or the MNQ? That will make a big difference. Especially when it's just a brick order like that. I'm not sure when it showed up. Let me go back. Oh, yeah, that's why. The MNQ is a different order structure. If we migrate all the way forward, then you get the POC at 030. But that's inclusive of the lower high. That's inclusive of everything. That's not the impulse POC. The impulse POC is still down at the base 80 quarter. If they make another new high above 68, then I can include it. Big bounce back to the upside. We already know what's going on. A lot of sellers exited to break even. It's not a surprise. Very, very strong bull popping back to the upside again. 3 press top, possible. Price is above the moving average cluster. In the bigger picture, though, it is still very heavily to the downside. The caveat being that we hit the low closes and the low opens on the daily, and that's what we're bouncing off of. We haven't made it to the big zone yet. Looking for more continuation. We have made a new high, so now we can migrate this over to the next new high, and that does show the POC a little bit further in the 30s. Although I still really want to keep my eyes on that 80 quarter. That was a giant brick of a wall there. Potential 3 press top, ascending wedge. Man, what a back and forth slugfest. I mean, it is hard to not look at the sell side in the bigger picture and still think that they're in control. You know, when you zoom out just a little. Feels a bit early. So more than anything, we just need to see a rotation down. Sellers attempting to get the breakdown again. We're down to the lows, and that's the earlier bottom of the L2. That's where sellers would have attempted to push back and try to pop things back higher again. What are your crypto holdings? Oh, hang on a second. I actually have a spreadsheet for all that. There's an app for that. I like to try to keep things as diversified as possible, although I will utilize different different things like interest payments and such to try to get things in a different like more aggressive one. So as an example, if I earn interest on my debit card, which I do on the Crow debit card, you get 1% back. You get 1% minimum, and if you invest more, then it's 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. The money that I make off those interest payments and money back type things, I like reinvesting those into more aggressive things, like Doge is an example. It's a perfect one. So you might be able to double your money that you made off of just buying normally, or it might just totally fail. Personally, for me, I like diversifying my crypto holdings with usually around 20% in Bitcoin and 20% in Ethereum. I like having those as a good base structure because those are the two that I believe in the most is kind of the not going anywhere mentality. Litecoin typically closer to like 10 to 15%. Other utility tokens, if Litecoin's on the lighter side, I'll fill in with Nexo or Crow or BNB, those Binance Coin, sorry, those types of things. That usually takes up another 15. And then I've got a rotating investment of about 30% of extra allocation that goes to Bitcoin Cash, Tron, Doge, Uniswap, Neo, ADA, Link, EOS. Just the randoms on the side that over time will grow, but typically are smaller, 5-6% each, something like that. Back down for a quick pop off of the 30s. Buyers are showing support. That's a really big clue. That means that sellers will have potentially jump ship at the break even, and not just jump ship at the break even. This is also adding context for the bulls to try to get this to reverse back higher. Price is sustaining its movement above the moving average cluster. We now have successive higher highs and higher lows, and the sellers are failing off of L1 and L2, which is what the trend has been down this whole time. So the fact that they're failing off of what they have been doing, or what they should have been doing, that gives us a pretty big clue that something has shifted, and now we're probably, if they do break above another high, and that's going to be the big part of it, if we break above another high, we're likely going to an L3. And L3 tells us confusion. Confusion doesn't necessarily mean the trend can't go back down again, but it tells us that here is when things aren't so decisive anymore. If it does go back down, it's probably going to bounce. So sellers who are trying to hold this L2 for everything they're worth need to get this to go down now. And then it's off to the races back down to the lows. These lower highs are a good start. Remember, it's still got to lean on the sell side, even though the market is trying to rotate higher. So far, the bigger picture, the bears obviously won the fight. A lower high still kind of sticking, trying to break back down. We saw the buyers defend off 30, but they couldn't make a new high. It's important information. Do you think the flash crash on crypto... This is a flash crash on crypto, or will prices go lower? More likely it's a flash crash. People have been extremely responsive to these types of dips, and when you start pulling back 50%, it gets everybody's attention. So, more likely at this point in time, I would consider it a flash crash. If it does make a new low, I would assume that buyers are probably going to be underneath that low as well. But with the caveat of, if it does make a new low, we're probably destined a little bit more sideways for the next month or two. Man. NASDAQ pulling back down towards those 30s. Will price go sideways if it's a flash crash? No. Usually not. If it's a flash crash, it'll be a V-bottom. You'll get that big dive down. Perfect timing for 10 o'clock, so this will be the last question, and we'll wrap it up. But you get that big move down. Can you stop drawing, please? You get the big move down, and then you might have some little jukes back like that, but it typically doesn't do much. This is what it's looking like so far. All I hear around me is bear market. Need some fresh air and someone who knows what he's talking about. Yeah, exactly. Bear market, bear market, bear market. It's not. This is the buy the dip. Everybody freaks out. That's how you know it's the right. I mean, when you go and get your hair cut and the barber's talking to you about, well, I don't know if that's as popular anymore, but and they're talking to you about crypto and how their son is buying into Doge and stuff like that. That's a pretty big clue that you might be close to a top. When I get a message from my grandma asking what Doge is, there's a problem. I need to start selling. That's usually when things go south. How do I invest in Doge? Good Lord, Grandma, don't. But now that you've asked me, thank you for giving me a heads up. Wait a month and then buy it. It's all fear. Shake them out. Yep, exactly. Anyway, that's going to do it for this side of things. Definitely watching this 30 area. I'm still more on the side of the sell end because we haven't broken a new high. If bulls fail underneath this 30s, we're likely looking for a rotation back lower, and that might be sooner than later. So let's transition over to the extended hours a little bit faster here, and then we'll get things going. For those of you who are on the VIP side, on the Zoom side of things, just hang tight, and we'll switch over. And those of you on the YouTube side, well, you got the link posted in the community section. So we'll see you all there. For the rest of you, enjoy. Hope you had a great day of trading, and we will see you all tomorrow, right? Have a good one. We'll talk to you all later. Thanks.